The Whispers Beneath the Itch by Dr. Emily Carter, health educator with 20 years of experience. Most people don't pay much attention to an itch. Maybe you scratch, maybe you moisturize, and then move on with your day. But what if I told you that your skin might be trying to say something, especially as you get older? Over the years, I've seen hundreds of older adults come into my clinic, rubbing the same spots, arms, legs, backs, necks, always assuming it's just dry skin or a change in the weather. And yes, sometimes it is, but sometimes it's much more than that. Your body has a quiet way of talking to you. It doesn't yell, it nudges. A bit of fatigue here, a dull ache there, or in some cases, an itch that just won't go away. In this series, I'm going to walk you through 4 specific places on the body where chronic itchiness in older adults could be a sign of something deeper. These aren't old wives' tales or guesses. These are patterns I've seen over and over again, confirmed by research, backed by real cases, and often missed until it's too late. So if you're someone who's noticed a strange itch lately, or if you care for someone who has, this story might just open your eyes to something important. Are you ready to listen to what your body has been trying to tell you? Let's begin with the legs. Part 2. The itch that walked up the legs. Dennis Jacobs had always been a quiet man. At 82, he enjoyed his crossword puzzles, his recliner, and reruns of old westerns. Lately, though, something strange had been bothering him. An itch that crept up the back of his legs every evening. No rash, no bumps, just a dry, crawling sensation he couldn't ignore. He figured it was nothing, probably dry skin. So he bought a new lotion, slathered it on before bed, and waited for it to go away. It didn't. What Dennis didn't realize was that this itch wasn't starting on the surface. It was starting much deeper, in his blood vessels. At the same time, across town, his old friend Harold was going about his morning walk. Harold, also in his 80s, had a simple routine. Get up, stretch, walk around the block, and check in with his daughter on the phone. His legs didn't itch. His energy was good. He just felt okay. The difference between Harold and Dennis wasn't just habit, it was circulation. See, as we age, the arteries in our lower legs can start to narrow. This condition, peripheral artery disease, makes it harder for blood to reach your feet, calves, and ankles. Without that blood flow, the skin begins to dry out. Nerves become hypersensitive. Muscles weaken, and an odd, persistent itch can be the first whisper of something much bigger. I've seen it again and again. Someone like Dennis comes in complaining of an itch. We run a simple test. The circulation is compromised. Sometimes it's early. Sometimes it's been going on for years. The good news? It's not a life sentence if you catch it early. I always tell my patients the same thing. Movement is medicine. Short daily walks, flexing your ankles, even putting your feet up while sitting can help. Staying hydrated, avoiding salty foods, and wearing compression socks can make a real difference. Dennis eventually made it into my office. After some gentle nudging from his daughter, he got checked out. Sure enough, circulation was down. But with a few changes and a bit of walking each day, the itching eased. So if you, or someone you love, has been scratching at their legs without a rash, especially at night, don't just shrug it off. Your legs may be itchy for a reason, and your heart might just be asking for a little help. Part 3. The back that spoke in itches. Janice Moore had always been a night owl. Even into her mid-70s, she'd sit up reading novels with a cup of tea while the rest of the world drifted off to sleep. But lately, bedtime had become a restless routine. Every time she leaned back in her favorite chair, she'd start scratching between her shoulder blades. The itch wouldn't quit, no matter how much lotion she used or how often she changed her detergent. Her friend Dorothy, the same age, teased her gently. "Maybe it's that mystery novel keeping your skin on edge," she joked. But I knew better, because I'd seen this kind of itch before. When the upper or middle back starts itching without a rash, especially in older adults, it can be a signal from inside the body, and it's often coming from 2 of your hardest working organs, the liver and kidneys. These 2 filters do a massive job, clearing out toxins, balancing minerals, managing hormones. But as we get older, and especially if we take several medications, they can start to slow down. And when that happens, waste builds up in the bloodstream. The skin, especially areas dense with nerve endings like the back, can react with an itchy, irritated feeling. Janice had also started to notice her ankles swelling a little. She felt more tired, more. Part 4. The itch that started in the mind, Ray. Patterson wasn't the type to complain. At 78, he'd lived through plenty: war, raising kids, the loss of his wife, and he always prided himself on keeping it together. But something had changed lately. Every night, just as he'd sit down in his old recliner, the back of his neck would start itching like mad. Then came his scalp. It felt like tiny bugs crawling under the skin, but no rash, no flakes. He switched shampoos, bought new pillowcases, even tried his granddaughter's fancy herbal spray. Nothing helped. Ray didn't talk about it until his son noticed him scratching during dinner. "Dad," he said, "are you okay?" That's when Ray ended up in my office. Now, when someone tells me they're dealing with constant scalp or neck itch, especially without any visible skin issues, I always ask one question: how have you been feeling lately? Not just physically, but emotionally. You see, the scalp and neck are nerve-dense zones. They're among the first to react when the nervous system is out of balance. And in older adults, that balance can tip easily, especially with chronic stress, loneliness, or even early nerve fatigue linked to aging. Ray hadn't realized it, but retirement had taken more out of him than he thought. His days were quieter, his routines were looser, and the grief he thought he'd buried was still quietly working its way through him. What he was feeling wasn't just skin deep, it was emotional tension showing up as a physical itch. I've seen this in many patients, especially those who carry silent stress. High cortisol levels, shallow breathing, poor sleep. They all start a chain reaction in the nervous system. Over time, the skin becomes a messenger for what's going on inside the mind. But here's the hopeful part. You can calm that message. For Ray, it started with small steps. A short walk each morning, turning off the news an hour before bed, calling his brother once a week. He even started writing down 3 things he was grateful for every evening. Little by little, the itch faded. Not all at once, but gently, just as the tension began to lift from his shoulders. So if you've been scratching at your head or neck and nothing seems to fix it, try asking yourself a different kind of question. How's my spirit doing lately? Because sometimes your nerves aren't reacting to shampoo. They're reacting to something your heart hasn't had the space to say. Part 5, the stomach that hungered for more than food. Elaine Bennett was always a light eater. At 81, she still cooked her own meals, but over time, her appetite just faded. A few crackers here, a bowl of soup there. "I'm not really hungry," she'd tell her daughter, but that wasn't the only change. Lately, she'd noticed a strange dry itch spreading across her chest and stomach, especially in the evenings. No rash, no irritation, just a nagging sensation, like something was trying to get her attention. She tried changing her soap, switched to fragrance-free lotion, even bought a silk camisole. Nothing helped. When Elaine came to me, she looked puzzled. "It's just skin stuff, right?" she asked. But I had a hunch, and her story confirmed it. When older adults develop persistent itching on the torso, especially around the chest and belly, with no clear skin condition, it's often not a skin issue at all. It's a sign of what I call quiet malnutrition. You see, as we age, the digestive system slows down. Absorption of nutrients like vitamin B12, zinc, magnesium, and healthy fats becomes less efficient. Even if someone eats regularly, their body might still be running on empty. Elaine, for example, wasn't losing weight, but her food choices, mostly carbs and little protein, weren't giving her skin, nerves, or immune system what they needed. And the itching? It was her body's way of saying, "Hey, we're missing some key building blocks here." The skin is loaded with nerve endings, especially across the torso. When those nerves lack proper nutrients, they become overly sensitive, sending mixed signals like itching or tingling. Add in thinning skin and a weaker immune system, and you've got the perfect storm for discomfort. But here's the best part. This is one of the easiest problems to fix. Elaine didn't need a complicated diet. We just added a few things: a daily multivitamin with B complex, a handful of almonds or walnuts, a hard-boiled egg a few times a week, and more color on her plate: greens, berries, a bit of lean protein. Within weeks, her energy improved, the itching eased, and her granddaughter even noticed her skin looked brighter. So if your chest or belly has been itching more than usual, ask yourself, am I truly nourishing my body or just filling it? Because your body isn't just asking for relief, it's asking for fuel to keep you sharp, strong, and steady. Final thoughts. Listening. When the body whispers, after decades in the field, if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. The body doesn't usually shout, it whispers. And often it whispers through the skin. A small itch on the leg, a tingle on the back, a tickle on the scalp, a strange dryness across the belly. Most people brush these off. Just dry skin, they say, or it's just age. But what if it's not? What if these tiny signals are your body's way of asking for help before something bigger develops? Let's quickly recap what we've learned together. Lower legs itching could point to poor circulation or early signs of vascular strain. Mid or upper back itchiness might be your liver or kidneys waving a red flag. Scalp or neck discomfort can signal emotional stress or nervous system fatigue. Torso itchiness across the chest or belly might stem from nutritional gaps, even when you're eating regularly. None of these signs mean disaster is waiting around the corner, but they do offer an invitation to move a little more, eat a little better, rest a little deeper, and reconnect, both with others and with your own body. Because aging doesn't mean breaking down. It means listening more closely. If even one of these stories felt familiar to you, don't ignore it. Start with one small change. Drink more water. Take that walk. Add those berries. Call that friend. And if nothing resonated with you today, that's wonderful news, but now you know what to watch for. So if the time ever comes, you'll recognize the whisper before it becomes a shout. Your body wants to be strong. It wants to be clear. And most of all, it wants you to live not just longer, but better. So here's to the small signs, the small steps, and the big difference they can make. Stay well, Dr. Emily Carter.